November 7th, 1942. Guadalcanal. Sergeant Hiroshi Nakamura crouched behind a moss-covered log, eye pressed against the scope of his Arisaka Type 97 sniper rifle. Through the magnified lens, he watched an American Marine moving carelessly through the jungle clearing below, carrying what appeared to be an absurdly large rifle. Nakamura smiled. The weapon looked heavy, cumbersome, impractical for jungle warfare. His finger tightened on the trigger. Then the Marine stopped, raised that massive rifle to his shoulder, and fired 3 rounds in rapid succession. 3 Japanese soldiers Nakamura hadn't even seen fell dead before the sound finished echoing through the canopy. The Marine swept his weapon across the tree line, fired again, and 2 more men dropped. Nakamura pressed himself flat against the earth, heart hammering. He had just witnessed something that shouldn't exist. A rifle with the accuracy of a sniper weapon, the firepower of a light machine gun, and the mobility of an infantry rifle. The Browning automatic rifle had just announced itself to the Japanese Imperial Army, and nothing in their tactical doctrine had prepared them for it. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today. The Type 97 sniper rifle Nakamura carried represented the pinnacle of Japanese marksmanship technology. Accurate to 600 meters in trained hands, it had dominated Chinese battlefields, where Japanese snipers operated with near impunity. Japanese doctrine emphasized individual marksmanship, patience, and the psychological impact of invisible death. A skilled sniper could pin down an entire company, killing officers and creating paralysis through fear. This approach had worked brilliantly in China, where opposing forces lacked the training or equipment to counter snipers effectively. Nakamura himself had 43 confirmed kills in the China campaign. He was an artist of death, selecting targets with care, taking single shots that dropped men hundreds of meters away. He had been taught that American soldiers, products of a soft, democratic society, would panic under sniper fire. They would freeze, scatter, call for help that wouldn't come. Instead, the Americans had brought a weapon that transformed the entire equation. The Browning automatic rifle, known universally as the BAR, was designed by John Moses Browning in 1917. It fired the .30-06 Springfield cartridge, the same round used in American sniper rifles, from a 20-round detachable magazine. It could fire semi-automatic for precision shooting, or fully automatic, at rates approaching 600 rounds per minute. It weighed nearly 16 pounds empty, making it brutally heavy for jungle warfare. Every BAR gunner carried extra magazines that added another 20 pounds. By conventional military logic, the weapon was too heavy, too complex, too expensive to issue widely. The United States Marine Corps issued 1 BAR to every rifle squad. 12 men, 1 Browning automatic rifle. That single weapon transformed squad tactics in ways Japanese observers initially failed to understand. Private First Class Kenji Yoshida, part of a reconnaissance unit operating near the Matanikau River in early September 1942, filed a report that reached Nakamura's unit 3 days later. The document revealed confusion about what Japanese scouts were encountering. American patrols move in formations we do not recognize, 10 to 12 men, 1 carrying an oversized automatic weapon. When we engage from prepared positions, this weapon suppresses our entire squad while other Americans maneuver. We cannot maintain aimed fire when under such volume. Our casualties in these encounters are disproportionate. Request clarification on American doctrine and weapon capabilities. The clarification came too late for Yoshida. His unit ambushed a Marine patrol on September 12th. The firefight lasted 90 seconds. 8 Japanese soldiers died. The Marine patrol suffered 1 casualty, wounded, who continued fighting. The survivor's report, recovered after his capture 2 weeks later, described what happened. The American with the large rifle immediately identified our position and fired continuously, while others flanked. We could not raise our heads. When we attempted to relocate, he killed 3 men in seconds. This weapon makes ambush positions suicidal. This assessment spread through Japanese forces on Guadalcanal as survivors shared experiences that contradicted everything they'd been taught about American infantry capabilities. The BAR wasn't simply a better weapon. It was a doctrinal revolution that Japanese tactics couldn't counter. Sergeant Nakamura received orders in late September to specifically target BAR gunners. Japanese intelligence had identified these weapons as critical to American squad effectiveness. Kill the BAR gunner, the theory went, and the squad loses its base of fire. Without that suppressive capability, American maneuver elements become vulnerable. It was sound tactical thinking based on how Japanese light machine gun teams operated. It proved catastrophically wrong when applied to Marines. October 2nd, 1942. Nakamura positioned himself in a tree overlooking a trail used by Marine patrols. He had waited since before dawn, motionless, barely breathing. At 08:30, a Marine squad appeared. Nakamura identified the BAR gunner immediately, a large man carrying the distinctive weapon with practiced ease. The shot was perfect. 700 meters, slight crosswind, target moving slowly. Nakamura exhaled slowly and squeezed. The gunner dropped. Nakamura began to shift position, following doctrine that demanded immediate relocation after firing. Before he moved 3 meters, the Marines had established a defensive perimeter, and another man had picked up the BAR. The new gunner swept the tree line where Nakamura's shot had originated, firing controlled bursts that shredded foliage and sent bark exploding from tree trunks. Nakamura pressed himself behind the tree trunk as rounds cracked past. The volume of fire was insane, one rifle putting out more rounds than a Japanese machine gun team. The Marines didn't panic. They didn't freeze. They immediately returned overwhelming fire while moving to cover. Within 30 seconds, smoke grenades obscured the kill zone, and the squad was displacing under cover of that massive automatic rifle. Nakamura remained frozen in his hide position for 2 hours before daring to move. He had achieved a perfect shot, killed a key target, and accomplished nothing except revealing his general location to an enemy who responded with industrial-level firepower. His after-action report, filed on October 4th, captured the frustration spreading through Japanese sniper units. The American automatic rifle makes traditional sniper doctrine ineffective. Killing the gunner does not disable the weapon. Other squad members are trained to operate it. The weapon's suppressive fire prevents follow-up shots. American response to sniper fire is immediate and overwhelming. Our advantage in marksmanship is negated by their advantage in firepower. Recommend revised tactics. No revised tactics came because none existed that could solve the fundamental problem. Japanese infantry squads were built around rifle marksmanship, with light machine gun support at company level. American Marine squads were built around the BAR as the base of fire with rifles supporting. The doctrinal difference meant that every Marine squad possessed firepower roughly equivalent to a Japanese platoon. When Japanese snipers engaged Marine squads, they weren't fighting 12 riflemen. They were fighting 11 riflemen and one weapon that could suppress an entire Japanese position, while those riflemen maneuvered for the kill. The mathematics were brutally simple and absolutely unsolvable with existing Japanese equipment and doctrine. Corporal Takeshi Saito, sniper with the Sendai Division on Guadalcanal, learned this lesson in the most direct way possible. November 15, 1942. Saito and his spotter had infiltrated to within 400 meters of Henderson Field, positioning themselves to harass American aircraft operations. The plan was textbook. Fire single shots at exposed personnel, create uncertainty, force Americans to keep their heads down, deny them freedom of movement around their own airfield. Saito fired his first shot at 0600 hours, dropping a mechanic working on an aircraft. He immediately shifted position as doctrine demanded, moving 30 meters to a secondary hide site. Before he settled into the new position, 3 BAR gunners from different locations opened fire on both his primary and secondary positions. The volume was staggering, hundreds of rounds in seconds, walking across the tree line, probing every shadow. Saito's spotter died instantly, hit by 3 rounds simultaneously from different angles. Saito pressed himself into a depression as bullets chewed the ground centimeters from his body. The BARs fired in coordinated patterns, each gunner covering sectors that overlapped. When one weapon went silent to reload, others increased their rate of fire. The suppression was continuous, inescapable, professional. Saito couldn't move, couldn't return fire, couldn't even raise his head without exposing himself to multiple angles of fire. The BARs maintained pressure for 20 minutes. Then Marine riflemen advanced under that covering fire, sweeping the area systematically. Saito attempted to escape and made it 15 meters before a BAR gunner spotted movement and fired a burst that shattered his left leg and right arm. He was captured, treated by American medics who saved his life, and interrogated 3 days later. His statement, translated and filed by Marine Intelligence, provided detailed assessment of the experience. "I have been trained as a sniper for 3 years. I have killed enemy soldiers in China and on Guadalcanal. I believed I understood infantry combat. The American automatic rifle renders everything I learned obsolete. One man with that weapon equals a Japanese machine gun team. Multiple weapons create suppressive fire that makes movement or aimed shooting impossible. When I fired one shot, 3 automatic rifles responded with hundreds of rounds. I could not survive this. No Japanese sniper can survive this. The weapon is not merely superior. It changes the nature of infantry combat in ways we cannot match with our current equipment." Saito's assessment reached higher command levels, where it joined similar reports from across Guadalcanal. Japanese officers studied the intelligence with growing concern. The BAR represented something unprecedented in their experience. It wasn't simply a better rifle or a lighter machine gun. It was a weapon that sat precisely between those categories, filling a tactical niche Japanese doctrine didn't recognize existed. The implications were profound and terrifying. Lieutenant Colonel Shiro Nakano, intelligence officer with the 17th Army on Guadalcanal, compiled comprehensive analysis in December 1942. His report, captured after Japanese evacuation in February 1943, revealed how thoroughly the BAR had disrupted Japanese tactical planning. The American Browning automatic rifle presents multiple problems that compound into a decisive American advantage. First, the weapon provides squad-level sustained fire previously available only at company level through machine gun teams. This decentralizes firepower, making American squads more autonomous and resilient. Second, the weapon's accuracy in semi-automatic mode allows selective targeting while maintaining suppressive capability. This combines roles that require separate weapons systems in our doctrine. Third, and most critically, the weapon is issued in sufficient numbers that American units maintain firepower density even after sustaining casualties. We have observed American platoons losing 30% casualties, yet maintaining offensive capability through BARs, providing continuous suppressive fire. Nakano's analysis included specific tactical recommendations that revealed the depths of Japanese disadvantage. When engaging American units at squad or platoon level, avoid sustained firefights. American BARs will dominate any exchange of fire beyond 30 seconds. Initiate contact with overwhelming force, or not at all. Do not attempt to suppress American positions with rifle fire. Their automatic weapons make this suicidal. Do not send small patrols into areas where American squads operate. The firepower differential ensures Japanese defeat in equal numbers engagements. These recommendations essentially told Japanese infantry to avoid fighting American Marines under any circumstances where numbers didn't favor Japan by factors of 3-1 or greater. Even then, the BAR's suppressive capability often negated numerical advantage by pinning Japanese forces while Marines maneuvered. The weapon had fundamentally broken Japanese tactical doctrine. Private First Class Hiroshi Yamada, infantryman with the 38th Division, experienced this breakdown firsthand during the December battles for Mount Austin. His unit, a reinforced company of 200 men, was tasked with assaulting Marine positions on a hilltop designated Hill 27. Japanese intelligence estimated the position held by perhaps 40 Marines. The assault began at 0400 hours on December 18th, using cover of darkness that Japanese doctrine considered advantageous. Yamada's company advanced in 3 waves, confident that numerical superiority and surprise would overwhelm the defenders. The first wave got within 100 meters before BARs opened fire from multiple positions. The sound was distinctive, deeper, and slower than machine gun fire, but vastly more powerful than rifles. The first burst caught Yamada's squad completely exposed on open ground. 5 men fell in 3 seconds. Yamada dove behind a fallen log as rounds chewed into wood inches from his face. The second and third waves, hearing the contact, rushed forward to support the assault. More BARs engaged, firing from carefully prepared positions with interlocking fields of fire. The concentrated automatic fire was unlike anything Yamada had experienced in China. Every time someone moved, tracers found them. Every time a group tried to maneuver, suppressive fire pinned them. The bars didn't fire wildly or waste ammunition. They fired controlled bursts, conserving ammunition while maintaining pressure, preventing Japanese forces from organizing an effective assault. Yamada's company spent 4 hours pinned, down by an estimated 6 to 8 BARs, supported by perhaps 30 riflemen. When dawn broke and American artillery began registering on their positions, the company withdrew, having accomplished nothing except losing 73 men killed and wounded. The Marines suffered 4 casualties, all wounded, none from the BAR positions. The hill remained in American hands. Yamada's after-action statement, given after his capture on Guadalcanal in January 1943, captured the despair Japanese infantry felt facing the weapon. "We were told Americans cannot shoot accurately. We were told they rely on volume of fire because they lack skill. These are lies. The Americans with the automatic rifles fired with precision. They did not spray bullets wildly. They aimed, fired short bursts, and hit targets. When we tried to advance, they fired longer bursts that made movement impossible. When we remained still, their riflemen picked us off. There was no way to win. The weapon makes American infantry superior to ours in any engagement where we do not have overwhelming numbers and surprise." The desperation in Japanese tactical assessments grew throughout late 1942 and early 1943 as the BAR's impact became impossible to deny. Captured documents revealed increasingly frantic attempts to develop counter-tactics. One memorandum from January 1943 proposed using concentrated mortar fire to neutralize BAR positions before infantry assault. The tactic failed because BARs were mobile enough to displace quickly when mortared, unlike heavy machine guns, which required more time to move. Another proposal suggested using snipers to specifically target BAR gunners from extreme range beyond the weapon's effective engagement distance. This failed because Marines cross-trained multiple soldiers on each BAR, making the weapon's removal from action only temporary, and because American counter-sniper doctrine had evolved to include BAR, suppression of suspected sniper positions, while designated marksmen hunted the actual snipers. A third proposal recommended night infiltration attacks that closed distance before BARs could establish effective fire. This failed catastrophically because Marines had adapted their defensive tactics to include BAR gunners with night vision training who could engage muzzle flashes and sound contacts in darkness. The weapon's high rate of fire meant even inaccurate suppression in darkness was devastatingly effective. Every tactical solution Japanese commanders proposed ran into the same fundamental problem. The BAR gave Marine squads firepower that Japanese squads couldn't match, and Japanese company-level weapons couldn't effectively counter because of the BAR's mobility and the decentralized way Marines employed it. Sergeant Nakamura, who had opened this story with his first terrifying encounter with a BAR, survived Guadalcanal and was evacuated to Rabaul in February 1943. His final report from Guadalcanal, dated February 3rd, captured what 8 months of fighting Marines had taught Japanese snipers about the weapon that had neutralized their effectiveness. The American automatic rifle has made traditional sniper operations prohibitively dangerous. When I began operations on Guadalcanal, I believed superior marksmanship and fieldcraft would ensure success. I have killed 11 American soldiers and wounded perhaps twice that number. I have lost 27 men from my sniper section. The ratio is unacceptable. The problem is not American sniper skill, which is inferior to ours in individual engagements. The problem is their automatic rifles responding to any sniper fire with suppression so intense that escape becomes unlikely. American doctrine does not require them to out-snipe us. They simply need to identify our general position and saturate it with automatic fire while their infantry maneuvers to kill us. This is industrial warfare applied to tow. Individual combat. Our skill means nothing against their firepower. Nakamura's assessment concluded with a recommendation that would have been unthinkable 6 months earlier. Japanese sniper doctrine must be completely revised for operations against American Marines. Traditional hide positions and engagement ranges are suicidal. Extreme range, shooting beyond 700 meters, reduces effectiveness but increases survival. Immediate withdrawal after one shot, regardless of result, must be mandatory. Multiple fallback positions prepared in advance are essential. Even with these changes, sniper operations against Marines will achieve minimal results at high cost. The American automatic rifle has made individual marksmanship tactically irrelevant. Volume of fire defeats precision. This is the reality we must accept. That reality spread throughout Japanese forces as Guadalcanal survivors were dispersed to other units. They carried with them hard-won knowledge that the BAR was not just another weapon, but a doctrinal revolution that Japanese industry and training systems could not match. The weapon cost approximately $240 to produce in 1942, equivalent to perhaps $4,000 in modern currency. The United States manufactured over 350,000 BARs during World War II. Japan could not match this production even if they had recognized the weapon's value early in the war. The Browning automatic rifle represented American industrial might focused through a single weapon system. It was expensive, heavy, complex to manufacture, and required extensive ammunition logistics to support. Only a nation with America's industrial capacity could afford to issue such weapons at squad level. Only a military with America's training infrastructure could ensure every squad had multiple soldiers qualified to operate it. The combination of industrial capacity and training investment created capability Japanese forces simply could not counter with existing equipment or tactics. If you find this story engaging, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this. Corporal Kazuo Tanaka, machine gunner with the 4th Regiment on New Georgia, discovered these limitations in June 1943 when his unit faced Marine raiders. Tanaka's Type 96 light machine gun was a capable weapon by Pacific War standards, firing 6.5mm rounds at rates up to 500 rounds per minute. With his three-man crew, he had established effective suppressive fire in previous engagements. Against Marine squads with BARs, his position became a liability. June 30th, 1943. Tanaka's gun team occupied a carefully prepared position overlooking a trail junction. When a Marine squad appeared, Tanaka opened fire at 300 meters, standard doctrine for maximizing the Type 96's effective range. He expected to pin the Americans while friendly infantry maneuvered. Instead, 3 BARs immediately returned fire with accuracy that shocked him. Rounds impacted his position within seconds, forcing his crew to cease firing and take cover. The BARs didn't waste ammunition trying to penetrate his position. They fired controlled bursts that kept his crew's heads down while Marine riflemen maneuvered using terrain. Tanaka attempted to engage the maneuvering elements and immediately drew concentrated fire from all 3 BARs. His assistant gunner was hit in the first burst. Tanaka tried to relocate the gun, and a BAR gunner predicted the movement, firing before Tanaka cleared cover. Rounds struck the machine gun itself, damaging the receiver and wounding Tanaka in the shoulder and arm. The engagement lasted 4 minutes. Tanaka's position, which should have dominated the tactical situation, was neutralized and forced to withdraw, having accomplished nothing. The Marines suffered 1 casualty, lightly wounded, who continued operating. Tanaka's post-action report, filed after medical treatment, revealed the mathematical problem Japanese machine gunners faced. The American automatic rifles provide firepower comparable to our light machine guns while remaining mobile enough to maneuver with infantry. When my position engaged, multiple American weapons immediately responded with sufficient volume to suppress our fire. We could not maintain aimed shooting under such pressure. When we attempted to relocate, they anticipated movement and engaged before we cleared cover. Our machine gun requires 3 men to operate effectively and cannot be moved quickly under fire. Their automatic rifles require 1 man and can displace in seconds. This mobility advantage makes their weapons superior in jungle terrain, despite our guns' theoretical advantages in range and sustained fire. The tactical implications were devastating for Japanese defensive doctrine. Machine gun positions, which should have anchored defensive lines, became targets that BARs could suppress, while Marine infantry destroyed them. The standard Japanese tactic of channeling attackers into machine gun kill zones failed, because BARs provided enough firepower to suppress those positions, while other elements flanked them. Major Takeshi Fujimoto, battalion commander with the 6th Division on New Britain, compiled what would become the most comprehensive Japanese analysis of BAR tactics in November 1943. His report, captured after the fall of Rabaul in 1945, revealed complete abandonment of any hope that Japanese forces could develop effective counters with existing weapons and doctrine. Fujimoto had been wounded twice fighting Marines, survived 3 major engagements, and lost over 60% of his battalion to American firepower. His assessment was clinical, detached, mathematical. The Browning automatic rifle has fundamentally altered the tactical balance in infantry combat. Our doctrine assumes rough parity in squad-level firepower, with advantage going to the side with superior marksmanship, positioning, or tactical initiative. Against American Marines, these assumptions are invalid. A Marine squad with 1 BAR possesses firepower exceeding a Japanese platoon. This is not exaggeration. Observed rates of fire, ammunition expenditure, and suppressive effect confirm this assessment. The implications are catastrophic for Japanese defensive operations. We cannot trade firepower with American squads. We cannot suppress their advance with rifle fire. We cannot anchor defensive positions with machine guns, because their automatic rifles suppress our guns while their infantry maneuvers. Every tactical advantage we might gain through positioning, surprise, or numerical superiority is negated by their firepower advantage at the smallest unit level. Fujimoto's report included casualty analysis that quantified the BAR's impact. In engagements where Japanese forces possessed numerical superiority of 2-to-1 or less, casualty ratios favored Marines by factors of 3-to-1 or greater. Japanese forces suffered 3 times as many casualties while inflicting 1/3 the damage. The mathematics were unsustainable. In sustained firefights lasting more than 5 minutes, Japanese casualties increased exponentially as BARs maintained suppressive fire that prevented effective return fire or maneuver. In ambush situations where Japanese forces achieved complete surprise, BARs still managed to inflict significant casualties during withdrawal actions, turning what should have been devastating Japanese victories into costly draws. The only engagements where Japanese forces achieved favorable outcomes occurred when they possessed overwhelming numerical superiority of at least 5-to-1 and achieved complete surprise, allowing them to overrun Marine positions before BARs could establish effective suppression. These conditions occurred so rarely that they represented statistical anomalies rather than viable tactical models. Fujimoto concluded his analysis with recommendations that amounted to admission of defeat at the tactical level. Future operations against American Marines must acknowledge our fundamental firepower disadvantage. Avoid squad or platoon-level engagements unless absolutely necessary. Concentrate forces at company or battalion level to achieve local superiority sufficient to overwhelm American firepower advantages. Accept that casualty ratios will remain unfavorable even in successful engagements. Plan operations with the understanding that American firepower makes traditional Japanese infantry tactics obsolete. Without weapons comparable to the Browning automatic rifle, we cannot achieve tactical parity with Marine forces. The Japanese military never developed such weapons. The closest equivalent, the Type 99 light machine gun, required a 2-man crew, weighed nearly 23 pounds with bipod, and could not be effectively employed as a mobile assault weapon. Japanese attempts to create squad automatic weapons comparable to the BAR failed due to industrial limitations, material shortages, and doctrinal resistance to decentralizing machine gun firepower to squad level. By the time Japanese commanders recognized the BAR's decisive impact, Japan's industrial capacity was degrading rapidly under American air and submarine campaigns. Manufacturing complex automatic weapons in quantity became impossible. The result was that Japanese infantry faced Marines with BARs throughout the Pacific War, without ever achieving technological parity. The human cost of this disparity was measured in thousands of lives. Private First Class Yoshi Kawamoto, infantryman who fought on Peleliu in September 1944, survived the battle with wounds that left him permanently disabled. His testimony, recorded by American interrogators in October 1944, captured what 2 years of reports, analyses, and tactical failures meant for the individual Japanese soldier facing Marines. We were told before the landing that American Marines were coming. We had heard stories from survivors of other islands. We knew about their automatic rifles. We knew we would die. There was no hope of victory, no expectation of survival. Our officers told us to kill as many Americans as possible before we died. That was our mission. Not to win, not to hold the island, just to kill Marines and die. The American rifles made even that impossible. When we fought from caves and bunkers, they fired into the positions until we were dead or buried. When we tried to counterattack, they cut us down before we closed distance. When we hid and waited for them to come close, they fired those automatic rifles and threw explosives until the positions collapsed. I survived because I was buried by explosions and unconscious when the Marines came. Everyone else in my company died. We killed, perhaps, 20 Marines. 180 of us died. The rifles made the mathematics impossible. Kawamoto's assessment included details about Japanese morale that revealed how knowledge of the BAR had spread throughout Japanese forces. Soldiers arriving at Peleliu had been briefed extensively on American weapons and tactics. They knew the BARs gave Marines decisive firepower advantage. They knew previous Japanese forces had failed to develop effective counters. They knew their own weapons were inferior. They went into battle expecting to die, hoping only to inflict enough casualties that America might negotiate rather than invade Japan itself. This grim calculus defined Japanese defensive strategy for the final 18 months of the war. The BAR had done more than provide tactical advantage. It had broken Japanese confidence in their ability to win infantry engagements. Sergeant Kenji Morita, who survived both Saipan and Iwo Jima before capture in March 1945, described the psychological impact in a statement recorded at a prisoner of war camp in Hawaii. The first time you hear the American automatic rifle, you know you are facing death. The sound is different from machine guns, deeper, slower, but continuous. When you hear multiple rifles firing together, you know your position will be destroyed. It is not a question of if, only when. On Saipan, I watched those rifles kill my entire platoon over 3 days. They fired from positions we could not see. When we tried to move, they fired and men died. When we stayed still, their other soldiers came closer and killed us. The rifles were always there, always firing, always killing. On Iwo Jima, I was in prepared positions underground. I thought we would be safe. The Americans fired the rifles into cave entrances for hours. The sound echoed until men went mad. When they stopped firing, they poured gasoline into the caves and burned us. Or they brought explosives and buried us. The rifles made escape. Impossible. We died in the darkness listening to that sound. Morita's testimony revealed that by 1945, Japanese soldiers didn't fear Marines because of their fighting spirit or tactical skill. They feared Marines because of the weapons those Marines carried. The BAR had become synonymous with American firepower superiority, a symbol of the industrial might that Japan could never match. The weapon appeared in Japanese propaganda as evidence of American reliance on material advantages over warrior spirit, but Japanese soldiers who actually fought Marines understood the propaganda was desperate rationalization. American Marines possessed both superior firepower and warrior spirit equal to Japanese soldiers. The combination was unbeatable. Lieutenant Saburo Takahashi, platoon commander on Okinawa, survived the battle because severe wounds rendered him unable to continue fighting. American medics treated him, saving his life despite having no tactical reason to do so. His statement, recorded in June 1945 after recovering sufficiently to speak coherently, included detailed assessment of how the bar had evolved in Marine hands over the course of the war. The Americans who landed on Okinawa were different from those we faced in earlier battles. The men carrying the automatic rifles moved with complete confidence. They did not take cover unnecessarily. They did not waste ammunition. They fired short bursts that killed with precision, then advanced before we could respond. They worked together perfectly. When one rifle fired, others covered different angles. When one man fell, another immediately took the weapon and continued. They were not individual soldiers. They were parts of a machine designed to kill. Takahashi's observation about Marines functioning as parts of a machine captured something essential about how the BAR had transformed Marine Corps doctrine. The weapon wasn't simply issued to strong soldiers and operated independently. It was integrated into squad tactics through intensive cross-training that ensured multiple Marines could operate each BAR. Fire discipline was drilled endlessly until gunners understood exactly when to fire full automatic for suppression and when to use semi-automatic for precision shooting. Movement techniques were practiced until BAR gunners could displace under fire while maintaining suppressive capability. The result was weapon employment that maximized the BAR's strengths while minimizing its weaknesses. Japanese observers consistently noted this integration. The BAR wasn't a superweapon wielded by exceptional individuals. It was a tool used expertly by well-trained squads who understood how to leverage its capabilities. This systematic excellence was uniquely American, a product of training infrastructure and doctrinal flexibility that Japanese military culture couldn't replicate. Japanese soldiers were trained to execute orders perfectly within rigid doctrine. American Marines were trained to accomplish objectives using whatever methods worked, adapting doctrine to circumstances. When given a weapon like the BAR that didn't fit existing doctrinal categories, Marines created new doctrine around the weapon's actual capabilities rather than forcing the weapon to fit pre-existing roles. The flexibility proved decisive. Captain Yoshio Nakamura, no relation to Sergeant Hiroshi Nakamura who opened this story, commanded a company on Iwo Jima that faced the 5th Marine Division during the February 1945 invasion. His position, carefully prepared according to General Kuribayashi's defensive plan, was designed to survive naval bombardment and channel Marines into killing zones. The position lasted 6 hours after Marines began their assault. Nakamura's report, written during the night of February 19th and delivered by runner before he died the following day, provided minute-by-minute account of how BARs systematically destroyed his prepared defenses. 09:30 hours. Marines begin advancing toward our positions. We hold fire as planned, allowing them to close distance. At 200 meters, we open fire with machine guns and rifles. Marines immediately take cover and return fire. Their automatic rifles begin suppressing our positions with sustained fire more intense than I have experienced in 3 years of combat. 09:45 hours. Our machine gun position on the left flank is suppressed by 3 automatic rifles firing from different angles. Our gunner cannot return effective fire. Marines advance under this covering fire and destroy the position with explosives and flamethrowers. 10:00 hours. Marines have bypassed our main position using dead ground we thought was impassable. Their automatic rifles provide covering fire, while demolition teams approach our bunkers from angles we cannot defend. We attempt to reposition but cannot move under such fire. 10:15 hours. First bunker is destroyed. Survivors attempt to fall back to secondary positions. American rifles kill them in the open. Remaining bunkers are isolated and under attack from multiple directions. 10:30 hours. All forward positions are destroyed. We have fallen back to reserve positions. Marines are advancing without pause. Their rifles never stop firing. We cannot hold. Nakamura's position, which General Kuribayashi expected to delay Marines for at least 2 days, fell in 6 hours. The bars had provided sustained suppressive fire that prevented effective Japanese resistance, while Marine assault elements maneuvered to destroy each position individually. The pattern repeated across Iwo Jima thousands of times. Japanese defenders, dug into positions that should have been impregnable, discovered that BARs could suppress firing ports while other weapons destroyed the fortifications. The mathematics were unchanged from Guadalcanal 3 years earlier. Superior Japanese positions and tactical preparation meant nothing against superior American firepower applied systematically. By the final months of the war, Japanese military commanders openly acknowledged they had no solution to American firepower dominance at squad level. Documents captured after Japanese surrender included training materials for home defense forces preparing to resist American invasion. These materials, dated July 1945, provided guidance that was remarkable for its honesty about Japanese disadvantages. American Marines employ automatic rifles that provide firepower exceeding our light machine guns. These weapons are issued to every squad, giving American forces decisive advantage in small unit combat. Japanese forces cannot match this firepower with available weapons. Defensive tactics must account for this reality. Do not attempt to trade fire with American squads. Their automatic rifles will destroy any position that reveals itself through sustained fire. Use hit-and-run tactics, firing briefly before displacing. Accept that casualties will be heavy even in successful engagements. Fight from prepared positions that can survive sustained automatic weapons fire. Understand that American firepower makes victory in conventional engagements impossible. These instructions were being distributed to civilian militia forces who would have faced marine invasion with hunting rifles, improvised weapons. The fact that Japanese military command was telling civilians the truth about American firepower superiority revealed how completely the illusion of Japanese martial superiority had collapsed. The Browning automatic rifle had been one weapon among many that demonstrated American industrial and tactical dominance, but its impact at the squad level made it the weapon Japanese soldiers feared most in close combat. The atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945 ended the war before Japanese forces faced BAR-equipped Marines in Home Island. Invasion. The soldiers who would have fought that battle understood they were being spared not from defeat, which was certain, but from the manner of that defeat. Corporal Hideo Takahashi, interviewed in 1953 as part of a historical documentation project, reflected on what fighting Marines had taught Japanese soldiers about modern warfare. We were raised to believe spirit conquers material advantages. That Japanese warrior culture made us superior to soft Western soldiers. The American Marines proved this was false. They had warrior spirit equal to ours. They fought with courage and determination we respected, but they also had weapons like the automatic rifle that made our courage meaningless. When you face an enemy who has both spirit and superior weapons, you cannot win. You can only die bravely and hope your death serves some purpose. By 1945, we knew our deaths served no purpose except to delay the inevitable. The automatic rifles had taught us that. Every time we heard that sound, we knew we were hearing industrial civilization defeating warrior culture. America had both. Japan had only one. The outcome was never in doubt. The Browning automatic rifle remained in American service through the Korean War and into the early years of the Vietnam War, finally being phased out in the 1960s as lighter weapons became available. The weapon's combat record across 3 wars confirmed what Japanese soldiers learned in the Pacific. A well-trained infantryman with a BAR could dominate tactical situations that would require crew-served weapons in other armies. The weapon's effectiveness came not from any single revolutionary feature, but from the combination of characteristics that placed it precisely in the doctrinal gap between rifles and machine guns. It was heavy enough to deliver sustained automatic fire with controllable recoil, light enough to maneuver with infantry, accurate enough for selective targeting, reliable enough to function in jungle, desert, and Arctic conditions. The United States was the only nation with the industrial capacity to produce such weapons in quantity and the training infrastructure to employ them effectively at squad level. Japanese soldiers who survived the Pacific War carried memories of that sound for the rest of their lives. The distinctive report of a bar firing, deeper and slower than machine gun fire, became synonymous with American firepower and the industrial might that won the war. Veterans would recall that when they heard that sound, they knew they faced an enemy they could not defeat with the weapons and tactics available to them. The weapon hadn't just killed Japanese soldiers. It had killed the illusion that warrior spirit alone could overcome material disadvantage in modern warfare. That lesson, learned in blood across dozens of Pacific islands, shaped Japanese military doctrine for generations. The post-war Japanese self-defense forces studied American, combined arms tactics extensively, understanding that modern warfare required integration of superior technology with tactical excellence. The BAR had been one weapon among many that taught this lesson, but its impact at the individual level made it the most memorable. Sergeant Hiroshi Nakamura, the sniper who opened this story, survived the war and returned to Japan in December 1945. He never spoke publicly about his experiences until 1973, when he was interviewed for a documentary about Guadalcanal. Asked what he remembered most clearly from the campaign, he didn't mention specific battles or fallen comrades. He described the first time he saw a Marine with a BAR. "I was trained to believe I was invisible, that my skill made me superior to any enemy. Then I watched one American with an automatic rifle kill 5 men in seconds. I realized everything I had been taught was obsolete." The weapon made individual skill irrelevant. American industry had created something we could not counter with courage or training. That was the moment I understood Japan would lose the war. We were samurai facing machine guns. The outcome was determined by factors beyond our control. Some men accepted this quickly. Others fought until death rather than acknowledge it. I survived by accepting reality. The automatic rifle taught me that reality. I never forgot that lesson. His final reflection captured what thousands of Japanese soldiers learned facing Marines with BARs. Modern warfare rewarded industrial capacity and tactical flexibility over individual courage and rigid doctrine. Nations that understood this survived and prospered. Nations that clung to warrior mythology perished. The Browning automatic rifle, carried by young Americans who had never heard of Bushido but fought with courage equal to any samurai, proved which approach would dominate the 20th century. The weapon killed Japanese soldiers by the hundreds, but it killed Japanese military doctrine completely. That was its most lasting impact on the Pacific War. Thank you for watching. For more detailed historical breakdowns, check out the other videos on your screen now, and don't forget to subscribe.